Okay, good evening once again. I'm just gonna go right into it, y'all. We're not gonna even hesitate. This thing has been a tumultuous. By all means, I have no headsets on. This is actually how we've been doing it. So I want to welcome my special guest that's joining me this evening, my man Ivan. This is my tech guy, y'all. So we said we just gonna go ahead and just put it on pause. What's up, I?
What's going on, man? Can you hear me good?
I can hear you fine, my brother. So we said we just gonna put this thing on pause, man, and we'll come back and try to upgrade this system. And I promise y'all we won't be having these kind of technical difficulties when we do this again. But again, I'm just gonna recapture and we go back on what we was talking about, man, when it comes to love and relationships and relationship building and how we have to carry that water, man, in the relationship because it's a natural current, a natural flow. So again, this is episode 49, and we want to talk about it. I'm gonna sound like I'm gonna kind of repeat myself a little bit, but it is what it is because we still have people that's just coming on right now, and I know we're running behind, so we're just gonna move forward, Ivan. But again, and I know this is kind of a topic that you wasn't pretty much familiar with, so I thank you for joining me this evening. But we're talking about that weak substance that they call water, which is created out of H2O, right? Which is very interesting because you got hydrogen and oxygen, right? So there are two things. And it takes two to create a union. And so I think that's very insightful when you think about it that way, because water is something that we just can't live without. Again, as I stated before, the body is made up of 75% of water, right? Okay. But it's not conducive to a electrical current because it shocks it out. But yet and still, we're made up of energy too, right? And energy, as they say, it's always moving, it's always transforming and going into another property or another state, so to speak. But again, I'm talking about water. And I named this simply because I knew that if I put up a topic like that, well, which one is carrying the water? What does that mean? What exactly does that mean? And I stated that I said new woman earlier, new woman simply being not new woman in terms of relationship being ended, new woman in terms of this new behavior that we're seeing in society, right? This new character, a new mindset, a new disposition. And the old man is the one that he has these old values, or he's ossified in his state or his disposition, and the things that he's looking at, he don't want that. He don't want that. And so when they make a knock on a person about, because they got this new platform, you may have heard it or been familiar with, they got this thing where they don't want guys policing them, right? Put that in inverted commas. I just think it's one of those deals where, hold on just a second, make sure my lights here. I just think it's one of those deals where we have to be mindful that we still have a certain governance. And I think in a relationship, it's important that whoever you select your mate with, they should have some type of sensitivity to be able to govern you as well as you govern them. Yeah, because if you don't have anybody govern each other, then what do you really have? You got people running freely. So that's what we want to talk about this evening. And I'll just go ahead and relegate, myself for a second here as I welcome people still coming on. That we got a very late start, but we're gonna tackle this episode 49, and then we're gonna be here for a short minute, and then we're gonna get off of it, and we'll get ready for next week's show because I'm working on another episode with Blac-Vocracy where we just do this one mic show. But anyway, Ivan, I want to come to you on that issue regarding this whole thing about this new mindset that we see today.
Oh, okay. All right. And we're talking about primarily the woman mindset. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just turning your mic up where they can hear you on Instagram and YouTube Live.
Oh, okay. So when it comes to water, there's this saying that water seeks its own level, right?
Right.
So we have a traditional man, which is what you were pretty much talking about a traditional man, especially when it comes to Gen X men from our generation, Gen X men. We still have those traditional values, right? We still have those traditional values, but because of the ways of women, because of their vanity, keyword vanity, They're always going to try to appeal or try to appease their vanity. So whereas a man doesn't have that vanity issue, doesn't have that issue. All a man has to do is build value in himself and maintain or elevate that value. All women, they just want to look good. They want to be what's happening, irregardless of age. As you see these older women acting wilding out just as much as the young ones. It's their vanity. And now that they're seeing that they're getting close to a wall, that good old wall that they hit, a lot of them are now not accepting that. And that comes from a generation of continuously disrespecting your elders. There's no generation more disrespectful of their elders than this generation we're dealing with now of young people.
Right.
Where they always talking, oh, you old, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, with women, that's universal regardless of age, because a woman can be the same age as us and she'll still call us old because of our values and our traditions, because she's trying to be with the youngsters. She, like I said before, when I've come on here, you see them in the spots trying to twerk just as hard as the young ones. You see that. That's because they want to shed those old values. They go around saying 40 is the new 30 and all this other backward stuff. They go around saying that. They put themselves out there, and we see that they're looking crazy. We see that. You see that they're embarrassing. They have kids, and some of them got grandkids, and they trying to look as young. Come on, you don't want me to go down this path, do you? You want to go down this path?
Right.
Because we see it. So men, we're traditional as older men, and I sure hate it for the younger generation of men coming up, because now they've inherited so many of these feminine characteristics. They may be just as worse off as these women's behavior. So you have a bunch of older men living in their vanity, whereas we're the lucky ones. And I've heard this saying that Generation X failed. No, Generation X has the most successful people out of all generations. And maybe you're just talking about Black Generation X's when you say that, but the most wealthiest men are Generation Xers. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, those are Generation X people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're looking at one facet of Generation X and saying, oh, y'all old, y'all. No, Generation X is it. So for women from Generation X to not be able to relate to a man, like you say, older women, or older man, new woman, not young woman, but new women.
Right.
Because a lot of these older women are acting brand new.
Right.
They shed their values, the good music that you play, all this good soul music. Oh, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear NBA Youngboy. They want to hear that. The older women want to hear that. Ooh, they want to hear Sexy Red. They want to hear Cardi B. And I don't want to say it on here, but there's some young woman running around here with a song saying her booty hole brown. You got older women saying that.
Right.
You have older women saying that. Isn't that? That's kind of A backwards. I don't want to curse on your show, but that's A backwards for older women to be subscribing to that. But that's what we have. That's what we have now. But I always say it was written. If you read your scriptures, it's written that days were coming like this. And if you really believe in your beliefs, if you really believe in your scriptures, you go to church and all this, this was coming down the pipeline. So for you to try to deny this, I just see that's like these times were coming. But yeah, that's what we have. We have a lot of women embarrassing themselves because of their vanity. They can't accept they're moving on in age. They can't accept the responsibility of that in their role as a family. Even if you left your husband, you still a grandmama.
Right.
You still grandmama, even though you left Johnny or you left Lester, you're still grandmama. You still got kids that you have to set examples for.
Right.
So, saying this. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was going to say, before you get any further, let me bring Tim to the platform and welcome Tim back with us as well. Good evening to you, Tim. We're still talking.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, glad to have you back. We're still talking about the episode.
What's up, Ivan?
So we're still talking about episode 49. We're talking about episode 49. There's a lot of metaphors into this, Tim and Ivan, as I talked about the water part of it, because there's a book and I want to share it. I shared it earlier. I want to share it again for those who wasn't with us earlier, regarding Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Metcalf. Very good book, very insightful book. Chop Wood, Carry Water. And it talks about having that, basically having a spiritual stamina, right? To be able to look at what's going on in society. And it talks about having that stick-to-itiveness and that will not to divert yourself intellectually the way you see society is oftentimes doing it, right? Sticking to your moral compass and what's really going on. So again, when I thought about this particular topic, it really sparked me once I saw the singer actress Janelle Monáe at the Black Essence Festival, when she thought that was the perfect platform to disrobe herself in front of the public like that, right? When we know the whole name itself means the Black Essence Festival. The name in and of itself would tell you what that platform is all about, or was all about. Essence, meaning the better of what we have to present and not the worst of what we have to present. And so she, in a very loathsome and disrespectful and distasteful way, decided to expose herself. And then she tried to justify her position when you had no justification for that, because you're talking about little girls being out there. So I said, there's this new creature, a new mindset, this reprobated mind that's being assertive. And I think that the layers are a lot deeper than what we think, because I think there's a moving, hidden force behind the scene that's causing some of this behavior too. Now, I'm not putting it all on that, because there comes a time in life when we have to all accept responsibility and take accountability more than anything else. So when I talk about the water part, water again is always cascading. It's always cascading, and if left alone in its weak form, it's weak. But when it starts to swell up, it has a powerful force to it. This water, and I talked about us being created out of water. 75% of us were made out of water, right? So we know water, if it's stagnated or standing still, it can become contaminated. So I think relationships can be exactly like that. If they're left alone and standing still, and there's no fluidity in the relationship, it can become stagnated. So we have to make sure that those things in the relationship is still fluid, that there's still a communication that's taking place. There's still a embracing that's taking place. There's still some affection that's still taking place within a relationship, and not this new disposition or new attitude that people want to try to indoctrinate others with. We're talking about staying with the good old, they say what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Those good old moral values and integrity and things of this nature. Those things are not they're not outdated, they're not antiquated, they're not old or out of style. Those things still matters. They still matters. Value still holds its value. There are certain things you just can't. What's the saying? The old saying about the wine? With Pierre Cardin, they say we will sell no wine before it's time. Certain things are still, certain wines are still refined within that bottle, right? But the world wants to contaminate the mindset and get you to revert back to this cretinism or this unnatural state of conduct. So Tim, I want to come to you and just get your take on regard, because I'm gonna play the song. I'm gonna read the words first to this particular song, and then we're gonna play the song, and we're gonna talk about it as far as how it relates into the relationship.
Well, you both have said a whole lot, dropped a lot of jewels on some people with some information, right? Because you're talking about values, and you're also talking about the new norm as well, as Ivan was talking about, and you referred to as well about the new norm, conforming to the norm. A lot of women are conforming to this new norm, and even the older women are conforming to it as well. They're getting caught up in the social change that happened, where that value is not what it used to be. It's upside down now. So the morality and priorities have changed, and so our priorities are not now about what the character of an individual is, not what they inside and what they value and what they do for other people. It's more about what can you do for me. And so now, so many people and so many women are in an exchange thing, right? I give you this, you give me that, right? And so that's a transactional relationship. And we don't want to be in the midst of transactional relationship. That's where the old come in. So we got to be careful, because the wonderful thing about water will conform to whatever you put it in. So if you decide to put yourself in a certain type of box, like Monet, as you were talking about, put herself in that box, she can now conform to a different norm. Now her outlook, when people see her, they're going to see her differently. That won't change unless she can change her form again. She can change her form, but it's going to take a long time, because once you go down the immorality road, people see you there and they don't forget it. So you really have to change a major norm to change that, to change your value, to change your value in this. Because some people are not going to value anymore. And what happened is this. When women are feeling this feeling that, hey, they're not valued for their character, they start to speak about money. So money becomes a new value system, because they've done some things where they don't feel good about themselves. And so when you do that, that's why you got to be careful you go down that road. You got to be careful what you conform to. You got to be careful how water is shaped, because water is powerful. It can be still, but it can be moving a current underneath it as well, too. So all the time. So we got to be careful what we conform to, what we jump in, what we pull into. You pull into the wrong thing, you come that shape, and you become what that is. And we got to be careful of that. We got to remember what the values really are. It ain't, money is important. It's important for exchange, but don't come a transactional, I would say another word, a tool. Don't come a transactional tool, because people will treat you that way.
304
value. There you go.
That's true. Well, see, the one of the beauties about water when it's cascading, it takes on a shapeless form while it's cascading. But the beauty about it, if it's rolling downhill, it can always come back together. It can always come back together. It's just that when you're kind of like what they call when you're boating, they call it when the wake, when you're leaving the port, they say you can't splash the water or the wake, or don't cause the boat and the motor to splash up the water in the wake, because it creates a problem. Water is also something, if you can't contain it, it becomes real emotional. Water is a real emotional formula, if you will, because when we cry, right, we cry tears. We can cry tears of joy, and we can cry tears of happiness. And water begins to flow down our cheeks and what have you. And whatever, it's like the song Smokey Robinson had about the tears rolling down his face, the tears of a clown. If you look close, it's easy to trace those tears when water is flowing. What the thing about it is, I think in relationships, that's one of the reasons why I talked about, well, who's carrying the water? Whose water is being carried or flowing throughout the relationship, because that's a superfluous thing. And it's easy, or should be, let me say that. I'm not saying that it is, but it should be easy flowing. A lot of time it's not. It's because we know that every day is not a sunny day, right? It will rain. But in the song with New Edition, it talks about, can you stand the rain? Because after the rain comes the sunshine. But a lot of people don't want to, go through those ups and downs or go through those hardships to get on the other side of the relationship, which leads to a high divorce rate within our community, which is one of the reasons why I want to tackle this particular subject regarding still water. Because the words of it, I'm just going to read the words first before we actually play the song this evening. It's one of these songs I heard when I was a kid, man. My dad would play it. And of course, you don't have the concept of a song, the depths of that song when your mind is still undeveloped. But in later years in life, as I began to really listen to a lot of these songs and really reflect upon these songs, I said to myself, man, these guys was really penning songs the way they should be penned. They was writing with a lot of substance. So I want to talk about what he was talking about within this song, and then we'll play it in just a second. Let me just kind of get to the lyrics right here on it, so I don't want to mess it up. Give me just a second. Okay, so let's do it like this. I'm gonna read it, and then I'm gonna come back and I'll play the song. But I want us to get an in-depth, because again, we can't. I always try to remind people this show is called Metaphors of Love. Are we listening? So we try to go in and break down the concepts and the symbolisms of these songs, the symbolic meaning of these songs, Instagram. This is what we try to do on this particular platform, so that you can provide this into your daily life and raise your horizon and look at your relationship with an introspective look, and then be able to look at it outside of yourself and look at it universally. Because a lot of times, as I chatted with somebody once, I said, if you're isolated and only talking about your own personal situation, then how does that really help our community as a whole? Because a lot of times, I understand that self-preservation starts with the individual first, but how does that really help us as a whole? So what he talks about in these particular words, he says, walk with me. That's what you're going to hear first. He says, walk with me, take my hand. And when you walk with someone, he didn't say walk behind me. He didn't say walk in front of me. He said walk with me, and not for me, but with me. So if you're walking with someone, that tells you that relationship is fluid. It's in motion. Okay. Then he says, take my hand. Take my hand. The hand represents strength. It represents control. But you in a controlling position, knowing that you're the leader of your household, right? Men should never yield that position by any means necessary. We have to fight for that seat of the throne. You understand? Anybody that play chess understand that the queen is a powerful piece on the board, but she protects her king. And I thought the concept of that was really like, well, why would they have not the king moving in all kind of different angles on the chessboard? Well, it's wisdom behind that, because the woman is the key to society. She's the cornerstone. She's the womb of society, because everything comes through the woman. There's no denying that, right? Okay, so when you're walking with your man, right, walking with him, not for him, he has to be that leader though, but walking with him and taking his hand, allowing him to lead the way he's supposed to lead. Then he goes on to say, never you mind if I don't tell strangers passing by. Don't be bothered by that. If I don't tell strangers passing by, if I don't brag, if I don't boast, click our glass and let's say a toast. He's toasting to, let's celebrate what we have. Don't worry about what everybody else have. Let's celebrate what we have, not everybody else. And I think that's key also in the relationship. Then he goes on to say, and I'm just going to run through it real quick. He says, let's click our glass and say a toast about my love for you, how it runs so deep and true. And yes, it's so because don't you know, still waters run deep. So in other words, he's saying still, or nevertheless, water runs deep. Now that's powerful when you really reflect on it, because water do run deep. It's like the song by the Bee Gees, How Deep Is Your Love, right? How deep is your love? He says still waters run deep, meaning that nevertheless, no matter what outsiders look at or how they see this situation, still waters run deep, meaning our relationship is still fluid. It's still moving. We still in the control of our own destiny within this relationship. These waters that we're talking about, what's the song that Neo had? He said, I'm a movement by myself, but I'm a force when we together. See, when waters are still running deep, like I said, by itself, if you cut the faucet on, you don't get much force. But if you're walking together within a relationship together, and the man is doing what he's supposed to do responsibly, then that relationship has a driving force. And this is what it's talking about in this particular song. So before we even comment on it, because we're gonna swiftly move to this since we got so far behind, I want to go ahead and play this particular song right here so we'll get an understanding, because this is one of these classics.